All right, ladies and gentlemen, we move on to our next session. Before we move on to the next session, a gentle reminder, tweet about those sessions, talk about them, hashtag SUGCON 2019 India. Remember, we have a contest tomorrow, winners walk away with the prize. Moving on to the next session, Sitecore Commerce and JSS by Saurabh Sachdeva. Saurabh is the founder of the Assurex UK, focused on Sitecore Commerce. Before founding Assurex, he was leading professional services for Sitecore UK, an avid driver. He loves to go on long drives to unwind. Ladies and gentlemen, taking you right now on a technical drive. Put your hands together. Welcome on stage, Saurabh Sachdeva.
Cool, thank you. So, let's start with the introduction first. My name is Saurabh Sachdeva, briefly has introduced me. So, I just founded a company which is called Assurex, focused on Sitecore Commerce. So, I am I've been doing commerce for 3.5 years now, and I'm kind of intend to focus on commerce. Before Assurex, I was a senior solution architect, and I was leading the professional services for Sitecore UK. And before joining Sitecore, I was the only commerce MVP for 2018 in the UK. So, I know I'm the only person between you and your dinner tonight, so I'll be quick, and I'll be finishing off very quickly. So, starting off with, I think there's some. So today's agenda, we are going to talk about, I'm going to briefly introduce JSS to you guys just to kind of build up some base. It's not, I'm not going to get into the depth of JSS, it's just the basic introduction. We talk about JavaScript services, layout services, which we have used in our commerce enhancement for JavaScript. So then, we'll start with commerce stuff, integration with JSS, extending the layout services to talk to commerce. So that's the agenda for today. How many of you have worked on commerce? I know that question has been asked previously as well, but okay, not a big number. But how many of you worked on JSS? And how many of you would like to work on JSS plus commerce? That's cool. So yeah, that's the reason for this session, and this is something which is not officially supported by Sitecore, that's not been presented by Sitecore, but we did it as our own kind of POC. So what is headless? Headless is a fancy way to say using CMS as a content API. And for that matter, Sitecore is fully capable of supporting this since version 6.5. So you had the APIs, it's been kind of much more formalized with the JavaScript services that Sitecore has introduced recently. So what advantages are you going to get because of having JSS? So what you're going to get is you're going to get the omnichannel experiences. So you don't have to rely on any front-end technology. So I will take the example of commerce. So when I talk about Sitecore Commerce, you have a provision to work with SXA, or you can directly call the Commerce API to Commerce Engine Connect to make it work and use the MVC controller at the front end. So that's the rendering mechanism as of today. But with the JSS, you can use any front-end technology, React, Angular, or whatever you want to use. It's just the data that's been rendered in the format which makes it usable. Design flexibility, yes, all the benefits of JSS, that's been brought into commerce now. So you will see how we have retained the major functionalities of content and commerce in context while working with JSS. So your implementation is not tied to the CMS technology choice. You got access to the broader talent pool as well. So if the people are efficient in back-end integrations, or they're happy to work with the front-end integrations, so you will need limited Sitecore experience in the middle. So what they say, when you talk about headless, if I start calling the Commerce API directly, or if I start using any other APIs, I will use the content authoring functionality in the normal scenarios. But with JSS, you will not get regular benefits without JSS, is personalization, A/B testing, preview, layouts, workflows, etc. But JSS doesn't lose that functionality, so it's a no compromise headless. And you're going to see a lot of JSS tomorrow with Anastasia and Gaurav talking about GraphQL as well. So what are Sitecore JavaScript services? So there are a few ways to render the data on the front end with Sitecore as of now. So one is Sitecore Experience Accelerator. We have got the Sitecore JavaScript services, which we are going to focus on today. You have got GraphQL to kind of render that data on the front end. So Yeah, GraphQL can be used, but we have used JavaScript services to do our POC. And then, Sitecore Services Client. These are the ways to kind of render the data on the front end, but all of them follow the same mechanism. You've got a Sitecore content repository, you've got a personalization engine running on top of it, which you don't have here, Sitecore presentation layer, and then, there's a rendering engine to render the Sitecore experience accelerator, and layout service API to kind of provide the data into JSON and integrate with JavaScript. So, what is JavaScript services? So it's a kind of set of packages that have been provided. It has got JavaScript SDK, JSS SDK. We've got Sitecore layout services. We've got JavaScript server-side rendering, and this is important. This is what we are going to do today to see how to render the commerce data at the backend. And then application imports. Talking briefly about these things, we've got npm package, which allows you to work with the it provides you the SDK functionality. You can use the Sitecore data and the layouts into the front end using those SDKs that have been provided by Sitecore. Then we've got Sitecore layout services. The layout services which renders, physically decouples the content delivery server. So it renders the JSON to you. I will show you how. It renders the JSON to you, and it's up to you how you want to present that data on the front end. And then JavaScript server-side JavaScript rendering. You can create the server-side rendering, like you might be currently creating controller renderings, view renderings, etc. You can create the JavaScript renderings, and every call to that JavaScript rendering will be processed by the Node.js server, which you will provision when you kind of deploy Sitecore JSS. So, and then application import is the functionality that have been provided by Sitecore again. When you are working in decoupled mode, disconnected from Sitecore, and when you're ready to kind of integrate with Sitecore, this is the service that you use to kind of integrate it with the the Sitecore actual platform, and it will generate all the artifacts, layouts, items, etc. for you at the backend. So I'm focusing on layout service. So what it does is it exposes the REST API endpoint, and then it renders to JSON rather than the HTML markup, which gives you that flexibility to kind of use the front-end technology that you want, and which can process the JSON and render the content as you like. There are two actions that layout services exposes. One is like getting the output of the whole layout of that particular item. So everything that items contain in that layout will be presented to you in the JSON format, or getting the output of the placeholder. So if you want to play around with only the part of that, you can also do that. So it's relevant in case of like you're building mobile application, for example, and you don't want to render the whole page on the mobile, but the part of it. So you can use those things to render particular placeholders. So two actions layout services exposes: getting the output of the whole layout of the item, and what it does is like you can specify item with the path and language parameters, and then Sitecore, API key. So that's when you set up JSS, you have to provision for API keys and all those things, so as to have the secure communication with the content server. So that's what you do. But important thing is like you're passing the item path. Sorry, I need to go back. Other thing is, if you want to get the data from only a placeholder, so you specify a placeholder name here. And that's what that's where it does, is like it takes the item from the path and you specify the placeholder name, and it will render the JSON for that particular placeholder at that point in time. So there are two ways to start your project in Sitecore with JSS. So one is a code first approach, and the second one is the Sitecore first approach. I'm going to briefly touch upon these. So code first approach is good for early prototyping and design. So if your designs are ready and you want to do something without involving Sitecore, you can start with that. So the developers, the profile of the developers they are JavaScript developers, they're not Sitecore developers to work with this code first approach. Front-end developer will not have their own Sitecore instance. So sometimes we have seen scenarios, people are waiting for license to come by and they're waiting for things to happen before they can start the development. So this approach can be useful in that scenarios. And if you're hiring a front-end agency that brings you the design first, and you can start with this approach, and once the design has been finalized, you can move to the Sitecore first approach. So what happens in Sitecore first approach is the project is being led by the experienced Sitecore developers. Complex content, back-end architectural demands, and Sitecore developers are also implementing JavaScript applications as well. So this is the thing that we are going to use in integration with commerce. So, when I say complex integration, commerce implementation is going to be categorized as complex integration because you're calling a third-party system API to get the data you want. So, what happens in disconnected developer mode is content data is mocked using the YAML files. You can use YAML, JSON, JS, whatever you feel comfortable with, instead of Sitecore instance. No Sitecore instance, so developers are kind of going onto the dev server, mock Sitecore proxy is created, and the data is getting from the YAMLs or any other format that you would like to use. In connected developer mode, a Sitecore instance is required. So developers are going to the dev server, you're hitting your Sitecore instance, and data is getting provisioned from the content DB. So, data comes from layout services, dictionary services, GraphQL APIs over the HTTP in that case. So one of the important things to note is once you have started in the connected mode, there's no way to go back, into the disconnected mode. So once you have connected, you have to carry on working with that. So now how JSS integrates with commerce. So that's, for few people have tried that and there was compatibility issues. As I said, that's not been officially supported. So what we have done is, we have installed Sitecore XP9 with update 2. You can use update 3. I haven't tested it with 9.1, but I don't see a reason why it wouldn't work with 9.1. You install Sitecore Commerce update 2 or 3 without the SXA storefront. That's really important because there was some conflicting, when you deploy Commerce, SXA and JSS alongside, there was SXA exceptions that have been thrown by the application. So that's important. Don't install the SXA storefront. And I'm here nowhere not recommending to use that, but it's just the way to kind of make it work right now. And install Sitecore Server Component Package, set up JSS is the kind of regular thing that you must have seen in a lot of demos. So what we did, just to save the time, we used the fitness app, that Habitat Fitness app that's been provisioned on Git. You can download that app and make it run for yourself as well. So we follow the simple steps of npm install, create Habitat Fitness in React, and just change the directory. So that's created. So we started the JSS in a connected mode, and you will see Habitat Fitness and all the items that have been created for it. So when I say import services, that is what it does. It creates all the artifacts for you in the Sitecore. So then you can use, it's not been mostly talked about feature, but JSON rendering or JavaScript renderings that have been provided by Sitecore for backend integrations. And you can use that one to kind of integrate with commerce. So what happens is, we created a JSON rendering, product recommendation list, as you can see highlighted on your screens. And then we have used this JSON rendering template, but you can use JavaScript rendering template as well to create that. But next, it will not work on its own. So what you have to do is, so Sitecore provides a set of content resolvers. So what happens is when your rendering is getting rendered, it calls this content resolver to kind of render the content through the databases. So we have to write a custom product resolver for this functionality to work. So you can see rendering content resolver, it will be a drop down, that's not visible in the screenshot, and it will, it's being created in the, if you look at the data section, and the type is being we created a custom one. So I'll show you how it works at the back end as well. So once you create that resolver, you'll see product layout service resolver is being kind of inherited from the interface iRendering content resolver on the top. And then you have a resolve content. That's the method that gets called when it encounters the content resolver on the front end. So what we have done through this is once you have got a breakpoint on the code, you can do whatever you want to from here. So that's what we have done is we have created a new data service and then we got the data from the backend commerce system. So we have done two things here. One is in both the approaches we are using Commerce Engine Connect, and that's really important here. So I could have called the Commerce API directly like we used to do who has worked on commerce using Postman. But that will lose all the functionalities that Sitecore Commerce provides of tracking all the goals, events, etc. So I wanted to keep that functionality intact. so that your goals or all the marketing capabilities are being captured. So I've used the Commerce Engine Connect utility, and you create a shop content. So you call the Commerce API through the proxy. So that's a Commerce Engine Connect. So when you say add to cart, you must have heard about abandoned cart marketing automation plan. So that's the event that's been getting raised from add to cart functionality that's been provided by the proxy. So if I skip that part, it will not raise that event, and marketing automation plan, etc., are not going to work for this. So, and then you are kind of, your first is like a query example. I'm making a search. And the second one is, again, it's a search, but it's a different way. I'll explain you on the next slide. Sorry, it's a demo. So mishmash there. I think the screen has froze. Yeah. Okay. Okay. You switched it to. Okay, that's fine. But that one is not getting refreshed. Okay. Yeah, I skipped all those things because. Okay, so yeah, getting back to this. So, if you have this, attended the commerce training or commerce 300 training, there's a functionality that they ask you to build is product comparison page. So that's the product compare, that's the action that I'm getting from that custom created functionality into the commerce. So you create a new plugin, and that's the data that you're getting into this example. And this one is kind of, I'm getting the search, again, I'm using Commerce Engine Connect interfaces, iCommerce Search Manager, so I'm not kind of losing out all the functionality that have been provided by Sitecore, and it's completely upgradable solution that we have kind of done here. So what happens is, apologies for this formatting, but what happens is if you look at this, the highlighted part, the URL is catalog management, catalog habitat master. So I'm getting the whole product information within the JSON format. So now, once you have this, so if you look at this, item and then language, API keys, all those things have been provided here. Just the home item. So I've added that component on the home item, the JavaScript rendering component on the home item, and that's been getting this result. So now you can use this result to render the data, the way you want to, the technology that you want to use at the front end. So let's get onto the demo, and I've prepared the video because sometimes the connection is so poor you can't actually run the demo on the remote machines. So let me bring that up. Yeah, so it doesn't work in the extended mode? It's in the extended mode, okay. It has to be duplicate mode, okay. That's fine. So what we've done is just to give you some example, and if you want to see the code, we can take it offline. So what we have done is, let's start this. So what is happening is after installing the Habitat Fitness app, we just started this as a connected application, and the Habitat Fitness Home has been kind of displayed here. So all the images that you're seeing is coming from commerce. Let's kind of move forward on this one. So all the data, that's the Habitat Fitness side, but we have kind of integrated that component on the home page, the JavaScript component. All the data is coming from the Sitecore Commerce using the Commerce Engine Connect APIs. So you can do add to cart, and yeah. So if I go to the final layout, you will see the product recommendation list, and I will show you how to kind of create this product recommendation list as well. So here's the rendering that I've created, product recommendation list with the component name. It's a JSON rendering that we have created here. The component name as normal, usual Sitecore settings, and the important thing to note here is the product resolver. That's a custom product resolver that we have created. So if you click, if you open this drop down in your implementations, you will see that product, you will have 4 out of box, but this is the custom one that we have created. And how we have created is, you can create into the settings systems, you can go and you can create a new product resolver into the already provisioned one. That's the same structure. So we provided a type of the content resolver and the method to call. So that's a DLL name and the type. So that's what we have done. Coming on to the code, first one is, this is the one, you resolve the content, you're calling the data service, you specify the database where to get the data from, and then you're getting your master index. We are using the master for now, but that's calling, commerce type loader. We are creating the connect interface instance here. So we are not losing out on anything that has been provided by Sitecore out of box with this approach. Yeah. That's the product, rendering, and that's being used by SXA, the Sitecore Commerce SXA that have been provided by Sitecore. That's being used by SXA. SXA provides the data from indexes. It combines it with price card later on. But we have used the indexes approach for just showing the product data. So, in your app, you have product recommendation list, index.js. You will get all the data into props afterwards. And then, once you have that data into props, you can render it into the HTML. And we use the existing one just to save the time. So we specify class names and all those things. I think this is a normal JS React development that you follow on this one. Cool. I'll just quickly move. So let's see what's happening, with this. So now you will see, I'm using the item as home item, languages English and Sitecore API. So if you click on this URL, you will see the whole outcome that has been rendered into the JSON format. So if you're not using that React app, but you want to use it, combined with mobile app or something like that, any other platform which is capable of kind of rendering JSON, you can do that. So you don't have to rely on, Visual Studio Code or anything else. It's just the JSON that's getting rendered. So you will see all the product catalog management, all those things are coming, and even the prices are coming here as well. So next is to show add to cart functionality. So if I click on add to cart, you'll see add to cart, add product to cart, again, it's been done through the API. So I will get onto the backend after this. So, these are the Postman script that have been provided by Sitecore. So what I'm doing is I'm deleting any existing cart just to show you the sample. The product actually get added to the cart as well. So we deleted that. Oh, sorry, this needs to be authenticated first. So it's deleted, and now, if I show you, the cart is empty for now. So if I fire that, button from the front end, it will fill up the cart at the commerce. So I'm retrieving this cart from the commerce engine just to show you that data is actually getting stored as a commerce entity at the back end. So request sent, let's go back. So you'll see, the amount that has been added, currency code, and all those things. So that's happening. So the idea is to keep on using the commerce provisioned, Commerce Connect APIs to kind of render the commerce content into the Sitecore in the way you want to do it, rather than relying on SXA or any other provisioning that you have got. So then, I've got compare manager just to show you how this is happening. Is add product is the action name that we have created here, and then there's a manager that we have created, and so again, commerce engine container, shop container. So we are using commerce engine connect utility to kind of get this data into the commerce. Let's skip this part. I guess we have. So at this point, I want to show you this proxy. That's the proxy, and any commerce interaction that needs to happen from the front end should happen through the proxy, so, commerce engine connect proxy, and that creates those events, etc., into the Sitecore. Going back to my presentation. So that's it from me. Any questions you have got? It's a good question, actually. Yeah, you can, I would say separate resolver, but what I would suggest is like, the one thing needs to be taken care of is like every resolver, any server rendering that is happening is going through the Node.js engine. And currently, there's a limitation on JSS, you can't really scale the version that I was working on previously. So, but it should work because, it's a commerce, and in commerce, you provide a lot of caching on the front end. So what I would suggest is like, get all that, as much data as possible in the few calls. So, and then cache it. So there needs to be a robust caching strategy as well to kind of make it work. So yeah, to answer your question, you can have different renderings, but you need to be careful about the performance impact. But I would suggest like, for example, adding, all the posts that can be done with a single resolver because you've got HTTP post and you can manage that, using the parameters and all those things. So there are ways to do it, but I think, one solution would not fit all. So yeah, keep in mind there's a performance impact of the JavaScript rendering, and unless you've got a good caching strategy and getting bulk of data in one go, be careful of that. The GraphQL, yeah, I didn't follow the GraphQL approach, to be honest, and I'm not an expert on GraphQL, but as per my understanding is, you will need the similar kind of resources, what you're doing here, unless Sitecore supports scaling of Node.js, and then you might need to have like more Node.js servers to kind of make it work. So, it would be same, but it's like I haven't tested that, so I don't know. That's cool. Thank you very much for patiently listening to me as a last speaker of the day, and now enjoy the evening and take care. Thank you.